Hey, how you doing? It's about 7 o'clock this morning. We got a 26-mile ride out today. Usually I don't do this 26-mile ride completely in one day. Usually I break it up in a couple of days. I've done it before altogether, but usually I don't. Earlier this week though, I had a mule I had to take to the vet, so I got out here late. So therefore I'm kind of in a time crunch today. So we're just going to push the whole way today. I've done it before. I did it, I think, about 2 months ago. And if you leave here around 7:30, you get done with the ride usually about 7:30 in the evening. So it's about a 12:30, or excuse me, about a 12-hour ride in all. But I want to make this really quick video. I'm pretty much ready to go, except for I gotta saddle my rear mule and then pack my two mules. But I had a gentleman on here that wanted to know how I tie my string of mules together, basically how I connect them. And there's different ways of doing it. The way I do it is called tying hard and fast, and I make one adjustment to that. But I use it because it's pretty simple. It's also very traditional. In these mountains, the Sierra Nevadas in particular, it's been used for years. It's been used this method anyways, has been used going all the way back to the 1700s when the Spanish were coming in these areas. And furthermore, it was used extensively in the 1800s, especially during the gold rush years. Back then, if you were a miner out here in these mountains, anything you wanted, salt, flour, bacon, coffee, tools, whatever, they had to pack it in by mule from either San Francisco or Sacramento, back when those towns were cool and before they got woke like they are today. But whatever, that's different. Different topic. But however, I'll go ahead and show you how I tie these together before I finish packing them anyways. Go ahead and grab my cellular device. Pretty meadow out here, but this is basically why I do it. This is Jill. She's been in a few of my videos. I still got to saddle her. And this right here is Dixie. All right, Dixie's pretty good mule. Pretty good. Both these are pretty good riding mules, actually. She's pretty good all the way around. She's good to ride. With everything else, she's about halfway there, but we'll get there. So this is basically what I do. Some people will go through the tail and pigtail or something like that. Some people will tie directly to the saddle. You can tell where somebody has tied a breakaway on this saddle before. I personally don't like tying the lead ropes to the saddles because when the mule behind puts her head down to eat or something like that, she can shift this load one way or the other. So and then you have to get off and fix it. So that's why I personally don't like tying to the saddles themselves. So what I do, I tie my lead rope for my mule back here. I run it to an O-ring that's back here on the back of the britchin strap, which comes right here. And then run my rope forward. Once I pack her, the lash rope sits over top of this to prevent it from getting snagged. But of course, I got to pack her to do that. I run it up through here. I'll run behind the breast collar, and then I'll go around her neck, and I just tie a bowline knot. Bowline knot's pretty simple. You make a hole, you have your rabbit. Rabbit goes through the hole, around the tree, back through the hole. You got a bowline knot. Bowline knot's pretty important to me because of that mule behind. If that mule ever sets back, this mule may feel it against her neck, but a bowline knot will not tighten itself up. So you don't want to strangle your mule. So this is what this is what's known as tying hard and fast, and it is a very quick way of tying. The one adjustment I make to it, and I would always advise you to make to it, is whenever you're tying up a mule to another mule, you always need to make a breakaway. So this is just hay string right here tied to the halter, and my lead rope itself is actually my clip on my lead rope is connected to the breakaway. And that's pretty important for me. When you're out here and you're doing this for a living, I mean, wrecks happen. You will have wrecks. And ideally, when you have a wreck, you want that breakaway to break versus having something happen to multiple animals. A few months ago, I was packing up in a different area, and we were basically on a big switchback that had like an 80% slope on one side. And one of my other mules that ain't here right now, I don't know what she did, but she basically fell. And when she fell, that breakaway broke, thankfully. But she fell by herself alone, and she ended up tumbling down the hill probably 3 or 4 times. She actually ended up one of these forks right here on her saddle. She split that in half But luckily she was okay. But I had a breakaway just like this. If I didn't have that breakaway on any of my animals, she could have taken the whole string with her. And if you look up some of the history of packing in these mountains back in the 1800s and stuff, a lot of times guys didn't use breakaways, and there are stories of things like that happening. So I would always use a breakaway, but that's just a real simple way to tie hard and fast. Again, you tie directly from the mule with a breakaway, as you should. Put an O-ring on your britchin, and you run it through here. This will be behind the lash rope, and then you'll tie a bowline up there on the neck. You can also do this on a horse, okay? I don't have a long enough lead rope with me really today to do that. So I've got a ring on the back of this saddle that I can actually tie to that directly. And that mule's got a breakaway on her halter, so I'm not too concerned about it. But what you can do, if you have one of these on the back, they're really designed for a britchin or a crupper. You can slip your rope through here, and then you can slip it either through the stirrup and then come back up and tie a bowline around the horse's neck, or depending on the length of your lead rope, you can also just run it straight through here and tie a bowline. Either way really works. But yeah, so that's what we're doing today, and got to finish packing some of these tools up and some propane tanks and whatnot, and head on out. Got a 26-mile ride today, 7 in the morning. Let's get it done.